Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Judge Samaniego.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear about the conflict between the Mexican army and the Sinaloa cartel in the city of Culiacan in early this month?
I did.
As described in The Guardian, it said that they captured Ovidio Guzman, who's son of El Chapo, prompting a wave of retaliatory attacks from cartel gunmen. After a night of violence, gunmen exchanged fire with security forces, blocking roads with burning vehicles and shooting at Army helicopters and police airplanes, bringing reinforcements to the city. According to one resident, heavy fighting raged for hours after Guzman, a key figure in the Sinaloa cartel since the arrest of his father, was arrested in the city early on Thursday. It goes on to say that residents were locked into their homes. All major roads into the city were blocked with burning vehicles, and gunmen attacked a military air base. It goes on. You would agree that the cartels are dangerous organizations, aren't they?
They are.
And they've come to have extraordinary capacity to operate in Mexico, to the point that they can take on the Mexican army. Isn't that true?
I'm not sure if that's a true statement, but
Well, in this case, they actually had a running battle with the Mexican army where helicopter gunships were deployed to fire and they were firing at them. There was an open warfare in the city. You do understand that, right, sir?
I do understand that.
Do you not see it as possible that in a future with an uncontrolled border, a border we can't control, that those same conditions could exist on the streets of American cities?
I believe that's not the case because I think we're mixing two things. We're mixing one, and that's unrest. We have unrest ourselves here in the United States, just like in Mexico, and we're mixing two things.
Are the cartels strengthened by the fees they receive for trafficking humans across the border?
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of assumptions.
Is that a hard question to answer, yes or no?
Well, give me the question straight so I can understand what you
My
said.
understanding is that billions in income come to the cartels, and according to the Border Patrol officers I've met, they say nobody comes across the Rio Grande. Nobody comes across the border without paying a fee of thousands. And many of these people don't have thousands, so they enter a life of indentured servitude until they pay it off. Their family might be tortured to pay for it. And the cartels earn billions from it. Is that not true?
It's true. It's true, but it's true on the Trump era as well.
Okay.
It's not. It has nothing to do.
I don't
with
even think it's necessarily should be a battle between Republicans and Democrats about who gets kudos for stopping the flood across the border. But isn't it true that the policy is strengthening the cartels, these dangerous cartels that can operate in the open and conduct open warfare with the Mexican army?
Well, I think you're talking about the root cause, and that's a broken system. And we're having, you know, we have to shoulder a broken system there in our community.
So we just deplore it as a broken system. But we don't need to respond as if this is an emergency and a threat to the United States, that the same conditions could occur here?
I'm not understanding how you're mixing the two things of trying to help asylum seekers. It's part of our
Well, if this transnational criminal cartel organizations that exist, and they're capable of doing what they're doing in Mexico, and they're being strengthened day in and day out, and their drug trade is producing profits and expanding their forces in the United States, isn't it just a matter of time and amount before they can do the same thing here that they do there?
We've seen this for 50, 60 years, cartels doing that and the fights that happen between them. We lived that, and we happen to be one of the safest when Mexico was the worst in the world in violence. We were still the safest community in the country.
So you're copacetic about it. You think there's not a threat to the United States?
Well, there's a threat, but I cannot understand what we're here for. Immigration, we're here to discuss what's the right thing to do for immigration. And I've always said that when you mix the two, it gets very complicated. It's complicated enough to look at them separately, much less when you combine the two. When you try to talk about the drugs and try to talk about immigration, it gets so mixed up that you can't resolve it. So I'd like to really focus on the fact that we need to do the best thing that we can. You know, you're very.
I'm out of time. I'd let you go on. I question your conclusion about what's humane and what's not, and with that, I yield back.
Well, thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes